Do you need a trust? Recently was in a conversation with some retired clients who asked that question. I'll tell you what I told them about that and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernardo, the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Real life financial planning scenario. Just recently was meeting with some clients who are in their late 70s, and I'll tell you, these folks, we've served them for a long time. Great people. They've been retired for 20 years or so, and a lot of times our discussions would center mostly on investments in the retirement plan and tax planning, okay? And those were the things that he was most focused on. The investment strategies, how are those working? Do we need to make any tweaks? Their tax picture, doing Roth conversions and doing a few other things to get them the income that they need, but also be wise with their tax strategies and so on. I tell you, our most recent discussion was completely different. It was completely different. The entire discussion was about long-term care needs and their future lifestyle and decisions around that, and about estate planning. Guys, it's no wonder that as you get older, as you age, those things are going to become more important to you. However, your certified financial planner, your CFP, you don't have them in your life to give you investment strategies only. They're there to help look at all 6 areas of your financial life to make sure that those seemingly disconnected parts of your finances are working together so that you have synergy. So as you make decisions, or you need to make decisions, there's clarity over which decisions are good and which ones are great. In all of that, your CFP should be delivering clarity, confidence, and creativity when needed. Hey, here's how you can solve that problem. So as the questions, I'll first start with long-term care. As the questions started there, both of them, they said they just don't get around as easy as they once did, and they're thinking, what's it going to look like if we need assisted living, or if we might need some assistance around the house with just doing some of our daily activities. They're independent right now, but they're just thinking ahead, which I praise them for that. I mean, and commend them. I mean, that takes a lot of emotional strength to say, yeah, coming up, I might not be able to. So we had already put in place long-term care policies, in 2006, and so we reviewed the components of those. I had reviewed those in preparation for the meeting, so made sure everything was up to snuff, and talked through that and talked through those decisions. But then the conversation turned, similar theme about sort of plans for the future, and it went to their estate plan. Something that we had also helped them with long ago, and that I had talked to them about whether they needed a trust or not. But she asked the question again, and the root of the question was she was around some other friends, and I don't even know how it got brought up. But each of the other friends, each of these other couples were saying that they had a trust, and so she felt that she was doing something wrong, because she knew that in our discussions we had decided, no, they don't really need a trust. It's going to be, there might be some help in reducing some probate costs. However, that seems like a smaller risk in their situation, or smaller costs, because of the other estate planning components that we have set up. So no bother, absolutely okay to ask that question again, confirm that you're taking the right approach, and we talk through it, because previously, I had recommended a trust because at one point in their life, they owned property in 2 different states, down in a southern state where they were snowbirds, and up here in the Midwest. And so at that time, I said, guys, having assets, having property in 2 different states means if you passed away, you're going to have to probate in 2 different states. That is very cumbersome, very complicated. I'd consider putting a trust in place, having the trust own both properties so that you can avoid probate, makes the transition process a lot easier. And at that time, they said, no, we're not going to own 2 properties for a long time. And they were right. It's still in their early 60s, they went down to just 1 property. And so they were right. But if we're evaluating that question now, do you need a trust? They did not own property in 2 different states, in multiple states. If you do, that's one of the triggers, that's one of the keys. You probably do need a trust, work with your CFP, but in their situation, they did not. Second, they did not have a lot of assets that didn't have beneficiaries attached to them. In fact, all of the assets other than their house, we had a beneficiary attached to it, okay? So, and we went through in this meeting and said, well, if something happens to one of you, here's the beneficiary of this account and this account and this account. Something happens to both of you, here are the contingent beneficiaries for this account, this account, this account. And I said, well, what about the bank? You know, the one reason to have a trust is if you've got a lot of assets that are likely to go through probate that don't have a beneficiary, then it could be a savings, certainly a hassle. You'd avoid a hassle by having a trust. They said, yeah, we don't have a ton built up in the bank and we don't foresee that happening, okay. And then what about the house? Well, the house is a sizable asset, and they had looked at doing, there's some counties allow a Lady Bird deed, a way for you to attach a beneficiary right to the house. So that's something that they are going to consider. Again, they're in their late 70s, probably time to start thinking about this. But if they did that, then even the house would avoid probate. So again, not a lot of assets that don't have beneficiaries. So not a lot of assets that would go through probate, not necessarily a trigger for needing a trust. And then the last reason is some of their intention to have dollars be managed, some of their assets managed after they pass away and not given directly to their kids. No, both of their kids are in their mid to late 40s and they trust them completely that if they passed away today and the kids inherited and received their estate, their wealth, they would be responsible with it. So that was no question with them either. That's another trigger of whether you need a trust. If you've got minor kids or if you've got kids that maybe aren't as financially responsible and you want to put some conditions, some parameters on, all right, you're allowed to get this amount out of the trust over X amount of time period or over your lifetime, something like that, that's a reason for a trust as well. Adds a lot of complexity, but if you're looking at this saying, well, if my child received all of this money in one lump sum, that really could accelerate them in the wrong direction because they don't have the skill, character, or maturity to handle a lot of money. That'd be a reason for the trust. So there you go. In their situation, we just sort of talked through it, sort of casually, but don't own property in two different states, don't have a lot of assets that don't have beneficiaries, and don't have a reason to continue to put restrictions or limitations or parameters on accessing dollars for their kids if and when they pass away. Therefore, I said, guys, if it makes you feel better, and you could put the house in the trust, you could put bank accounts in the trust, that's fine. You could spend the money to get a trust in place. However, adds a little bit of complexity right now, and I don't necessarily see the benefit. And they agreed. And it's something that maybe we'll consider again in the past. We probably need to address what we do with the house and whether we do the Lady Bird deed or whether their county has an easy way to add a beneficiary to that so that asset avoids probate. But also possible, again, we were talking about long-term care, also possible that they sell the house and move into a condo or something of a lesser value here in the near future as well. So, do you need a trust? What are the right components to your estate plan? Do you need a basic estate plan, a will, medical directive, so power of attorney and healthcare power of appointment, and then living will? Or do you need to add a revocable living trust on top of that? Work with your certified financial planner on that. Talk to your CFP and what that game plan is before you reach out to the attorney. Get the game plan. The attorney often doesn't know all the areas of your financial life, doesn't know your financial goals. They'll do a little bit of discovery or ask you to fill out a questionnaire, but usually your certified financial planner, the purview that they have of all 6 areas of your financial life, they're in the best position to say, yeah, you might want to consider a trust. Let's talk to the attorney and get their input. Or I'm not sure that makes sense. When we work with the attorney, we can confirm that. So work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us here as well, or send us an email at info@korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.